Captain Raiden had traveled through many dangerous places in the galaxy, but this moon felt different the moment he stepped on it. The air was thin, the sky was gray, and everything felt abandoned. His ship, the Silver Wing, stood behind him. Like a quiet metal guardian, its engines humming softly. Raiden was here for a quick mineral scan, nothing more. Or at least that was what he believed. He walked across the dusty ground, his boots making soft crunching sounds. No wind, no plants, no life. Just cold silence. But then, something strange happened. He heard a sound, a small weak cry. It was so faint he almost thought it was his imagination. Raiden stopped walking and listened carefully. The sound came again, soft, shaky, like a baby trying to call for help. It echoed from a dark cave a few meters away. Raiden's eyes narrowed. This moon was empty. No life signs on the scans. So what was crying inside that cave? His instincts told him to be careful, but something in that cry touched his heart. It wasn't a monster's roar. It was a desperate, hungry sound. He took out a flashlight and slowly walked toward the cave. The entrance was narrow, and the inside was darker than space itself. The cry came again, louder this time, scared, hurting. Raiden moved deeper until the beam of his flashlight hit something lying on the cold stone floor. A small creature. Raiden's breath caught in his throat. It looked like a tiger cub, but alien. Its fur was silver with black stripes, its ears were sharp, and its tail was long and fluffy. But the most shocking thing was its size. It was tiny. Maybe only half the size of a human baby. Its ribs were showing through its fur, and its breathing was slow and weak. One of its paws looked injured, and its eyes were filled with pain. Cub looked up at Raiden with big golden eyes, not dangerous, not wild, just scared. Raiden slowly knelt down. "Hey there." "Easy," he whispered, even though it couldn't understand him. The cub made a soft trembling sound. It tried to stand but fell back down, too weak to move. Raiden felt something inside him tighten. He had seen suffering before, on battlefield, in abandoned colonies, but something about this little creature pulled at him. It looked so lonely, so close to death, yet it still tried to reach out to him. He opened his small food bag and pulled out a nutrient pack. It wasn't made for alien animals, but starving was worse. He tore it open and held it out slowly. The cub sniffed the air, its nose twitching. It hesitated, unsure if Raiden was a threat. Raiden stayed still, calm, showing no danger. After a moment, the cub dragged itself forward with tiny, tired movements. Then it placed its small mouth on the pack and began to eat. It ate fast. Too fast, like it hadn't tasted food in days. Raiden watched quietly. He didn't move until the cub finished the entire pack. Even then, the animal continued licking the empty wrapper, trying to get the last drop of food. "You were really starving," Raiden whispered. The cub looked up. For a moment, Raiden felt something strange, like the cub understood him, like it trusted him just a little. He gently touched the cub's fur. It flinched at first, then relaxed. Warm, soft, alive. Raiden glanced around the cave. There were signs of struggle, scratches on the walls, broken stones, a few drops of dried blood. Something had happened here, something dangerous. But whatever it wasn't here now. He carefully lifted the cub into his arms. It was light as a feather. "I'll give you water, clean your wound, and keep you warm," he said softly. "Just hold on." He carried the tiny creature out of the cave and walked toward his ship. As he stepped into the daylight, the cub curled against his chest, finally feeling safe. But Raiden didn't notice the pair of glowing eyes watching him from the rocks far above. Eyes filled with intelligence, eyes filled with power, eyes filled with silent rage. The owner of those eyes wasn't small, and it wasn't weak. It was the cub's mother, and she had just seen a human walking away with her child. Raiden felt a sudden chill, as if someone or something was watching him. He turned around quickly, but the rocks behind him were empty. Silent, still. He shook his head and continued toward the ship, but deep inside, he felt something coming. Something big, something that was already following him, and the story of the starving cub was just beginning. Captain Raiden barely slept that night. The small alien cub lay on a soft blanket inside his ship, breathing slowly but safely. Raiden had cleaned its injured paw and given it water. The cub curled up near the ship's heater like a warm silver ball of fur. Every few minutes it let out a tiny sound, almost like a purr. Raiden sat in the pilot chair, watching the moon's empty surface through the window. The strange chill he had felt earlier still stayed in his mind. Something had been watching him, he was sure of it, but the scanner showed nothing, no movement, no heat signatures, no signs of life except the tiny creature inside his ship, still. His instincts whispered that the moon was not silent anymore. The darkness outside grew heavier as night took over the barren land. The stars above looked sharp and cold. Raiden checked on the cub again. It seemed peaceful now, sleeping softly. He finally leaned back and closed his eyes. He didn't know how long he slept. But a sound woke him. A soft tap, like someone or something touching the outside of his ship. Raiden opened his eyes sharply. The sound came again, slightly louder. Tap. He grabbed his blaster and moved to the door. Before opening it, he checked the external camera feed. His heart almost stopped. Right outside the ship stood the small cub. The same cub he had found starving in the cave. But now it wasn't weak or shaking. It stood firmly, looking straight at the camera. Its golden eyes glowed in the dark like two tiny lanterns. "How did you get out?" Raiden whispered. He had locked the ship doors. Yet the cub was outside. Confused but worried, he opened the hatch and stepped out slowly. The cub didn't move. It simply looked at him, its tail swaying gently. As Raiden bent down, the cub made a soft sound and nudged his boot as if trying to get his attention. "What is it?" he said, kneeling beside it. The cub looked behind him, not at the ship, but at the rocks. Raiden turned around. At first, he saw nothing but shadows. Then the ground trembled, just a tiny shake, but enough to make his heart race. A low growl rolled across the rocks like thunder. Raiden stood up quickly, blaster ready. He heard something heavy moving, claws scraping stone. His eyes scanned the darkness. And then she appeared. First, two glowing amber eyes emerged from the blackness. Then a large shape stepped into the pale moonlight. Raiden froze. It was the most powerful creature he had ever seen. A giant alien tigress, her silver fur shining like metal, her black stripes glowing faintly with some inner energy. Muscles rippled under her skin as she walked, graceful yet deadly. Her tail, long and sleek, waved behind her like a warning. Her face was fierce, strong, but strangely beautiful. She looked like a queen of the wild, and she was staring directly at Raiden. Raiden didn't breathe. He didn't dare move. This creature could kill him in less than a second. The cub ran forward excitedly and rubbed itself against the tigress's front leg. The mother lowered her head and sniffed the cub, checking it carefully. Then she lifted her gaze again toward Raiden. Mother's eyes, protective, intelligent, and full of questions. Raiden slowly lowered his blaster. I didn't harm your cub," he said quietly. "I helped it." The tigress tilted her head slightly, like she understood something. She stepped forward, not fast, but with slow, powerful movements. Each step made the ground vibrate. Raiden felt his heartbeat pounding in his ears. When she finally reached him, she stood so close that he could hear her breathing. Warm, steady, dangerous. Her nose touched his arm first lightly, almost gently. She sniffed him, smelling the cub's scent on his clothes. She circled around him, studying everything about him. Raiden stood perfectly still. Any sudden movement might be the last thing he ever did. Then something strange happened. The tigress lowered her head and gave a slow, deep rumble, not a growl. Almost like a thank-you.rayd. Blinked, surprised. The cub climbed onto his boot again, as if telling its mother, "This is the one who saved me." But before he could relax, the mother tigress moved suddenly. She placed one giant paw on his wrist, not attacking, but holding him firmly. Her claws pressed lightly into his skin. Not enough to harm him, but enough to show she was in control. Raiden swallowed hard. "What do you want?" The tigress looked into his eyes. Then she pulled his arm, not to hurt him, to guide him. She wanted him to follow her, into the darkness, into the caves, into her world. Raiden felt the weight of the moment. A giant alien queen was asking for his help, or demanding it. Either way, he had no choice. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. The moon was silent again. But nothing about this night was normal anymore, and whatever waited inside those caves was even more dangerous than the tigress herself. Raiden followed the tigress mother into the dark caves, his steps slow and careful. Her grip on his wrist was firm, but not painful, like she wanted to make sure he would not run away or get lost. The cub walked beside them, its small paws making soft tapping sounds on the stone floor. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. It felt like stepping into another world, a world untouched by time. Raiden whispered, "What is this place?" His voice echoed proud. She guided him through narrow tunnels until they reached a wide chamber. Raiden's eyes, the place looked like an ancient city carved under the earth. Broken statues stood on each side, shaped like tiger-like warriors holding crystal spears. Old paintings covered the walls, pictures of families, battles, celebrations. Everything. The cub pressed its face into her leg, whimpering softly. Then Raiden saw the damaged deep claw marks, burned stone, collapsed roofs. Something had destroyed this place violently. Something brutal. Raiden walked closer to a wall. A symbol was carved deeply into it, a large eye with sharp lines around it. He didn't know what it meant, but it gave him a strange feeling in his chest, a warning, a threat. The tigress mother touched Raiden's forehead lightly with her nose. Suddenly, an image flashed into his mind, a large shadow, sharp teeth, screaming. Fear so strong it felt like drowning. Raiden gasped and stumbled back. She was using telepathy to show him the truth. He saw her clan, hundreds of strong, proud tigress warriors running from a creature made of living darkness. It moved. Every terrified scream gave it more power. One by one, her people were swallowed by the shadow. The vision faded. Raiden stood still, breathing hard. "Your tribe, they were hunted." The tigress nodded slowly. Raiden looked at the cub. "And you two are the last ones." The cub lowered its head, sad. Raiden felt his heart twist. He understood now why she brought him here. Humans were different. Humans survived fear. Humans adapted. Humans fought until their last breath, and the predator that hunted her kind needed fear to grow. Raiden didn't show fear easily. That made him dangerous to the creature. "Is that why you brought me here?" Raiden asked softly. "Because I don't fear like your people do?" The tigress stared into his eyes. Her gaze was deep, almost pleading. She didn't attack him. She didn't threaten him. She asked for help. Raiden nodded slowly. "I'll help, but we need a plan." Before the tigress could react, the ground suddenly trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. A cold wind rushed through the tunnels. Raiden felt the tiny hairs on the back of his neck rise. A low hiss drifted through the chamber. The cub ran behind Raiden, trembling. The tigress mother growled, her fur rising. Raiden gripped his blaster tightly. From the shadows at the far end of the chamber, a shape moved, smoke, darkness, eyes like burning holes. The predator had returned. Its presence felt heavy, like cold hands pressing on Raiden's chest. The cave lights dimmed as if the creature ate the brightness itself. Raiden swallowed hard. He refused to step back, but the moment the creature saw the Tigress mother, it lunged forward, growing larger, feeding on her fear. Raiden stepped between. Then instantly, the creature froze, its body flickering like a broken flame. It tilted its head, confused by Raiden's calmness. It wasn't used to prey that didn't fear it. Raiden narrowed his eyes. "You picked the wrong moon." The creature screeched, the sound twisting the air. The Tigress mother roared back, standing beside Raiden. And then everything exploded into chaos. The creature lunged with terrifying speed, a swirling mass of black smoke and jagged claws. Its body had no real shape, only shadows formed into something hateful. Raiden felt its presence pushing into his mind, trying to force fear into his heart, but Raiden stayed steady. Humans had faced darkness before. Humans had built fire in caves, walked through war, survived storms, and fought nightmares. Fear was their shadow, not their master. The predator didn't understand that. The Tigress mother jumped in front of Raiden, claws slicing through the air. But her attack passed through the creature's smoky body. The creature laughed, a horrible sound like metal scraping bone. Her fear fed it, making it grow larger. Raiden grabbed her shoulder. "Stop, your fear makes it stronger." The Tigress looked at him, confused. The cub pressed against her leg, shaking in terror. The predator slithered around them, circling like a hungry shark. It spoke not with a voice, but inside Raiden's head. "Human, fear me." Raiden clenched his fists. "No." The creature hissed in frustration. It lunged straight at him, its smoky claws reaching for his face. Raiden didn't move. At the last second, the creature's claws passed through him like cold air. The predator pulled back, flickering. It couldn't feed. It couldn't grow. The Tigress mother stared at Raiden in shock. She had never seen a creature who could stand against this ancient monster. Raiden slowly walked forward. "You don't scare me," he said calmly. "I've faced worse." Images flashed in the creature's mind. Raiden's battles, his near-death experiences, the flames of war, the screams of lost friends. Humans had walked through terror for generations. This thing was nothing new. The creature shrieked, its body shaking violently. It was starting to lose shape. Raiden took another step. Each time he moved forward, the creature shrank. Humans were dangerous not because they were strong, but because they refused to die quietly. The predator tried one last trick. It turned toward the Tigress mother and cub, using their fear to boost itself. It grew sharper, darker, more solid. Raiden ran to the mother and stood beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I'm here, don't fear." The Tigress looked at him, her golden eyes trembling. She tried to control her fear. She tried to trust him. Raiden squeezed her shoulder gently. "You're stronger than this. For your cub, for your clan." Something changed. The Tigress mother straightened her body, pushing down her terror. Her breathing steadied. Her eyes burned with anger instead of fear. The cub, watching her bravery, stopped shaking and stood up tall. The predator screamed as its power decreased. Raiden smiled. "Now we fight." He pulled out 2 EMP grenades from his belt. "Let's see how you handle human technology." He threw both grenades into the creature's swirling body. A bright flash exploded, sending crackling waves through the air. The predator convulsed violently as the predator convulsed violently. Electromagnetic pulse disrupted its energy. The Tigress mother roared and slashed with all her strength. This time, her claws hit something solid. The creature staggered, its form breaking apart. Raiden charged forward, grabbing a fallen crystal spear from the ground. It glowed when he touched it, reacting to his human energy. He stabbed the spear into the creature's core. The predator let out a final deafening shriek. Black smoke exploded outward, then vanished into thin air. Silence. The Tigress mother collapsed to her knees, exhausted. The cub ran to her, crying. Raiden fell back onto a stone wall, breathing hard. They were alive, but the battle had shaken the entire cave. Rocks fell from above. Cracks formed in the walls. Raiden stood quickly. "We need to move, now." The tigress mother grabbed her cub and looked at Rayden. Trust, gratitude, respect, 3 emotions, burned in her eyes. The cave trembled again. The predator was gone. But their fight for survival was not. The tunnels finally fell silent after the creature's death. Dust floated in the air like slow snow, and the glowing crystals flickered weakly as if tired from the battle. Raiden leaned against a broken pillar, feeling his heart finally slow down. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the fight's intensity. The tigress mother moved toward him. Her steps were a little unsteady, her body scratched and bruised, but her eyes were fierce and alive. The cub clung to her leg, looking up at Raiden with something close to admiration. Raiden gave a tired smile. "You two okay?" The tigress mother bowed her head deeply lower than before. Not a normal bow. Not a simple thank you. It was respect. Raiden blinked. "What's this about?" She raised her head and touched her forehead to his chest. The gesture was warm, gentle, and full of meaning. A moment later, an image formed in his mind again, clearer than before. He saw her standing on a crystal throne. Beside her were warriors with the same silver fur and glowing stripes. They bowed to her. She lifted a staff of light, and the room cheered. Rayden gasped softly. You're their queen?" The tigress mother looked at him with calm, proud eyes. She was not just a survivor, not just a mother. She was the last queen of her clan. Raiden swallowed hard. The moment felt heavier now. The flash of images changed again. He saw the shadow creature attacking her people. He saw the queen fighting, claws shining like steel. But even she was afraid, and that fear gave the monster strength. Her warriors fell one by one, disappearing into darkness. She ran with the cub, the last child of the royal bloodline, trying to keep it safe. The vision faded, leaving Raiden standing in silence. The queen stepped closer and gently placed her paw on his chest, right over his heart. Raiden felt a pulse of energy, warm and ancient, flowing through him like a soft breeze. He understood. She wasn't just thanking him. She was choosing him. Raiden shook his head slightly. "Why me? I'm just a human explorer. I'm not a king. Not a hero." The queen stared at him with deep golden eyes. Another image flashed in his mind. This one from the battle. He saw himself standing between her and the predator, unafraid. He saw the cub looking at him with trust. He saw himself refusing to run. The queen felt all of that, his bravery, his calmness, his stubborn human spirit. Fear gave the predator power. Raiden gave it nothing. His courage protected the queen and her cub. Queen placed both paws on the stone floor and lowered her head. Again in a full bow, something no ruler did lightly. Raiden's throat tightened. "I don't think I deserve that." The cub climbed onto Raiden's leg, purring loudly. Its little tail curled around him. Then it nudged his hand, almost saying, "You do." The queen rose slowly and stared at Raiden. Her eyes glowed softly. A new image formed, this time not about the past, but about the future. Raiden saw a large chamber deep underground. The queen stood on her throne, her cub beside her. And standing next to them was Raiden, wearing armor made from the glowing crystals, holding a royal staff. The clan was rebuilding, cheering for him. They called him something like Guardian Protector, Chosen One. The vision faded. Raiden blinked. "You want me to protect your cub, your future, your home?" The queen nodded once. Raiden looked at the cub. The little creature stared at him with big, trusting eyes. It let out a tiny chirp. He sighed softly. "You two really don't make this easy, do you?" The queen gently touched Raiden's shoulder. Her claws didn't hurt, only rested there, steady and warm. Then she did something unexpected. She placed her forehead against his, an ancient royal gesture. A bond mark. Raiden felt a rush of warmth in his mind. Not magic. Not control. Connection. He now carried the mark of the queen. A promise. A responsibility. The chamber around them trembled again, louder this time. Raiden looked up. Cracks spread across the ceiling. The tunnels won't hold, he said quickly. We need to move. The queen nodded, grabbed her cub gently by the scruff, and signaled Raiden to follow. Together they ran through the long tunnels, the walls shaking behind them. As they escaped through the final passage, Raiden looked back one last time at the ancient catacombs. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was part of their story, part of their survival, part of their future. And the queen's request was only the beginning. The tunnels shook harder as Raiden, the queen, and the cub raced through the underground passages. Dust fell like rain. Stones cracked and rolled down the walls. The ancient catacombs, once the pride of the Tigress clan, were collapsing after the battle with the predator. Raiden ran beside the queen, keeping pace even though she moved quickly despite her injuries. The cub clung to her back, eyes wide with fear. We're almost out, Raiden shouted. The queen nodded, but her steps slowed for a moment. She was tired, too tired after the fight. Raiden took her arm to steady her. We move together, he said. The queen gave him a grateful look. They burst out of the final tunnel into the open moonlight. Cold wind hit Raiden's face, and the stars above looked strangely calm, almost unaware of the danger below. But the peace lasted only seconds. Deep roar echoed from behind them, shaking the ground like thunder. Raiden spun around, eyes wide. No, it can't be. Out of the tunnel entrance, black smoke flowed like a river. It twisted, curled, and rose into the air. From the center of that smoke, two glowing eyes opened, burning with rage. The predator wasn't dead. It had survived. And now it was stronger. The queen let out a low growl, her fur bristling. The cub hid beneath her, terrified. Raiden stepped forward. Stay behind me. The smoke creature towered above them, almost twice the size it was before. It fed on the fear trapped in the collapsing tunnels. It fed on the pain. It fed on ancient memories. Now it wanted revenge. Raiden took a deep breath. He couldn't fear, not even a little. Fear was the creature's fuel. If he panicked, the battle would be over instantly. The smoke swirled closer, whispering inside Raiden's mind. Human. Bow. Die. Scream. Raiden tightened his jaw. Not today. The creature lunged, a giant claw of smoke slicing through the air. Raiden dove to the side, rolled, and fired his blaster. Blue light shot through the smoke, making it flicker, but not enough to stop it. The queen jumped beside him, slashing the creature with glowing claws. Sparks of light burst from the contact, cracking the creature's form. Her attack worked better than before, but her wounds made her slower. The predator sensed weakness. It rushed toward her. No! Raiden shouted and ran straight into its path. He felt a cold shock as the creature's smoky arm passed over him. It tried to force fear into his heart, but Raiden's mind stayed strong. He remembered the cub's tiny chirps, the queen's bow, the bond they had shared. He wasn't alone now. Humans didn't break easily. The creature shrieked as Raiden's fearless presence weakened it again. The queen saw the opening. She stood tall, gathering all the strength left inside her. Her stripes glowed bright silver, and her eyes burned like fire. She roared, not in fear but in defiance. The predator staggered back. Raiden shouted, "Together!" Now he pulled out his last EMP grenade and activated it. A loud hum filled the air. The creature sensed danger and rushed at him desperately. Raiden didn't run. The queen roared again, slamming into the monster's side, throwing it off balance. The cub, tiny but brave, let out a high-pitched cry that echoed across the barren land. The grenade exploded. A wave of electric light tore through the air, passing straight through the predator's smoky body. The creature screamed, its form shaking violently. The EMP tore apart the energy that held it together. Raiden didn't stop. He ran forward with a broken crystal spear he grabbed from the ground. It glowed brighter the closer he got to the creature. The queen leaped with him. Together, human and alien struck as one. Raiden drove the glowing spear into the creature's core. The queen slashed her claws through its heart of smoke. The cub stood tall behind them, giving the courage of its own little roar. The sky flashed white. The predator released one final, terrible shriek and exploded into dust. Black smoke faded into the cold night air. Silence spread across the land. Raiden dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. The queen collapsed beside him, exhausted but alive. The cub ran to both of them, crying and nuzzling their faces. They had won. They had survived. But Raiden felt something else, something strange. His head felt heavy, his ears ringing. Too much telepathic pressure, too much stress, too much energy. From the explosion, the world around him blurred. The queen caught him before he fell. She lowered her head and pressed her forehead to his. A soft light flowed from her into him, warm, soothing. Raiden's vision dimmed. The cub curled beside him. "You're safe," he whispered. Then everything went dark. Warmth. That was the first thing Raiden felt when consciousness slowly returned. Not heat warmth. Soft, gentle, comforting warmth. He opened his eyes. For a moment, everything was blurry, glowing with soft colors like gold and silver. Then the shape sharpened, and he realized he was lying on a thick bed of glowing moss. Blue crystals hung above him like stars in the ceiling. The air smelled faintly sweet, like forest flowers mixed with warm fur. Raiden tried to sit up, but something heavy and soft gently pushed him back down. It was a large paw, the Tigress queen. She sat beside him, her powerful form curled protectively around his body. Her silver fur shimmered in the crystal light, and her golden eyes focused on him with intense emotion. Not anger. Not fear. Relief. Raiden swallowed. "How long was I out?" The queen couldn't speak with words, but her mind gently touched his. A calm wave washed over him. Hours. Not days. The cub suddenly popped into view, climbing under Raiden's chest and making happy chirping sounds. Its little tail wagged like an excited puppy. Raiden chuckled weakly and stroked its soft fur. "I'm okay, little one," he said softly. But the queen didn't look okay. She looked emotional, like she had almost lost something important. Her claws dug lightly into the moss as she leaned closer, pressing her forehead against Raiden's. A gentle pulse of emotion flowed into his mind. "You fought for us. You bled for us. You saved us. You are ours." Raiden's heart thumped. "Hold on, what does ours mean?" The queen pulled back slightly, her eyes glowing. The cub sat proudly at her side. The queen placed her paw on Raiden's chest again, right over his heart. Not heavy, not forceful, a claim. A bond. A recognition. Suddenly, the crystals on the walls began to glow brighter. Raiden looked around. This room was different from the tunnels, clean, sacred, filled with symbols carved deep into the walls. It felt like a royal birthing chamber, a sacred healing place, and a throne room all in one. Raiden whispered, "This is important to you, isn't it?" The queen nodded slowly. Then an image flashed into Raiden's mind. Not a memory, something new. He saw himself standing beside the queen. The cub, much bigger now, stood proudly at his left. Around them, a new Tigress tribe reborn from survivors. And returning wanderers stood in rows, bowing. They were honoring him. They were accepting him. They were choosing him. The vision shifted. The queen stepped beside him in the image, touching his shoulder. Her golden eyes were softer, warmer, more intimate. The message was clear. Raiden was not just a protector. Not just a friend. Not just a warrior. The queen had chosen him personally deeply. Raiden felt heat rise in his face. You want me to stay? With you? With your tribe? The queen leaned closer. Her muzzle brushed his cheek. Her breath was warm, her eyes half closed in a way that made Raiden's heart jump. Her tail curled around his waist gently, pulling him closer. She didn't need to speak. Her choice was clear. She wasn't asking him to be a warrior. She was asking him to be hers, her partner, her protector, her bondmate. The cub gave another excited chirp, as if approving the idea. Raiden let out a slow breath. You're serious, aren't you? The queen touched her forehead to his again. A soft spark of energy flowed between them, stronger this time. A deep connection, a link. He felt her emotions clearly now, gentleness, strength, devotion, and something warm and powerful that felt almost like love. Raiden placed his hand gently on her cheek. I don't know what the future looks like, but I know you and your cub deserve more than just survival. The queen's ears twitched, listening. Raiden smiled softly. If you want me to stay, I'll stay. The queen closed her eyes and let out a soft, pleased rumble, something between a purr and a royal signal. She wrapped her body around him protectively. The cub curled into his side. And for the first time, Raiden felt something he hadn't felt in years. Home. A ship. Not a planet. Not a human city. Home was here, wrapped in the warmth of a tigress queen and her brave little cub. Deep beneath a forgotten moon, Raiden rested his head against her chest. Her heartbeat was strong and steady. I fed a starving cub, he whispered. He looked at the queen, who gazed at him with warm golden eyes full of promise. And somehow, I saved a queen. But the queen gently pulled him closer, her tail curling around him completely. No, you did more. You saved a future. Our future. Raiden closed his eyes. He had come to this moon alone. But he wasn't alone anymore.